Hello, fellow Riddle types, how are you doing? Today we're going to be talking about a very special comic, which is Riddler's One Bad Day. What is this One Bad Day series? It's basically one-off issues that are focused on each Batman villain. There's Catwoman, Bane, Two-Face, Mr. Freeze, Killer Croc, and today we're going to be talking about the Riddler one because not only it's the only one that I'm qualified to talk about, but also it's the only one that I actually want to read. This pussy is Riddler only, baby. So, did I like this issue? Is this issue good? Is it bad? It's bad. It's really, it sucks. I don't have any nice way to put it. It's just really bad. But you're not here to hear me say if it's good, if it's bad, because really, talking about preferences is something that a 5-year-old can do. Oh, I like this, I don't like this. No, let's talk about something a little deeper. Let's talk about what the comic actually says and what it actually shows. Because I think that a lot of people, when they talk about the Riddler One Bad Day, they don't talk about what the comic says, but what they think the author is saying. A lot of people say that the author shows that the Riddler can work without riddles, but I don't think this is what the comic actually says, no matter what the author thinks he's saying. But before we get into that, let's just analyze the story, because here's the thing. I consider myself to be a Riddler fan. I see a lot of fans online saying, oh, because I think that the Riddler should be this, the Riddler should be that. And I do understand where this point of view comes from, but I think that the best thing about the Riddler is that he's very versatile. You can do whatever you want with him. You can compare the Jim Carrey Riddler with the Paul Dano Riddler and say, wow, this is the same character. That's how versatile he is. And as such, I am not opposed to new takes on the character. I just think that the character has a few points that make him unique, and not exploring them is a waste. And I don't like making the character the same as everyone else. The Riddler is very versatile, but he's also very unique. And he is a character unlike ever created. So throwing off that potential is something that I cannot abide with. And it feels like this comic kind of wants to do that. Kinda. Because the entire idea is that the Riddler gives up on being the Riddler. He decides, oh, because I've been joking around with Batman with riddles, I don't want to do that anymore. I just want to live my life and do my stuff. And the comic tries to show the Riddler as being very smart and being very complex underneath all the Riddler shit. So does the comic succeed? Not really. I mean, the comic tries to portray his origins, but I do believe that they are less complex, because I do like the idea of the Riddler not liking riddles. I think that it's very interesting, because at this point in time, the Riddler probably has a very love and hate relationship with riddles, because there have been stories that portrays the Riddler as being incapable of stop doing riddles, and this fucking him over. He wants to stop doing Riddler shit. He wants to stop doing riddles, but he can't. It's a compulsion. It's an OCD. And yeah, I think that at this point in time, he probably resents the riddles a little bit, because he needs to do them. It's his calling card, but it's also the cause of a lot of suffering. It's the reason why Batman manages to catch him every time. So I don't think that the Riddler needs to love riddles. And I think that portraying him as not liking riddles and doing them as a sort of handicap on himself, and to portray him as better than other people because he can totally get the logic of the thing he hates, I think it's an interesting point of view. I really like it. But I don't like the version of his origins where he comes from an aristocratic upbringing. You see, I did say in another video that the Riddler started off as a con artist, as someone that tricks other people. But I think that the version that I prefer of the Riddler is a worker that believes in meritocracy, but ends up being screwed over. You know, someone that worked very hard to have the excellence to be where he is, but capitalism just fucks him. And instead of him reevaluating his stance on capitalism and meritocracy, he says, no, the system isn't wrong. It's not that meritocracy doesn't exist, it's that meritocracy is wrong. It should favor me. I like it because there is a theme with a lot of Batman villains, that they do notice something wrong with society, and many times they are wronged by it in some way. But instead of working with other people, building anti-capitalist communities and working together to try to make society a better place, they decide, no, I am going to be selfish. I am going to only look for myself. You know, Catwoman is usually a person that had a very rough upbringing, but decides to steal only for herself. You have Poison Ivy that instead of working with other communities to try to decrease environmental damage, decides to fuck all people and animal life. Have the Penguin that many portrayals make him be bullied by who he is, what he looks like, but he decides to maintain his authoritarian power scaling but placing himself on the top. And the Riddler is the same thing. You can have a worker that worked very hard, got screwed by the system, but instead of being like, oh, well, let's try to build something better, he decides to be selfish and only try to better himself and better his ego. I think that is more thematically compatible with all other Batman villains. So I do not believe that putting him in an aristocratic upbringing is a good idea, because the entire point of the Riddler is that he's very egocentric, he's not as smart as you think he is, and having him surrounded by aristocratic people saying that he is capable and he's better than other people kind of diminishes that. I'm going to put a pin on that his ego is wrong. And we're going to go back to this. I'm just going to say that I don't see a lot of connection with his upbringing and his need to become the Riddler, because he did have an aristocratic upbringing and he had a path laid down for himself and he decided to go against it, and I don't understand really why. If he did want to escape the abusive upbringing of his father, he could just have escaped to live a normal life. You know, he didn't need to continue on this path to prove that he is much better than Batman. But this is somewhat addressed by the comic, because the Riddler does say, hey, I don't want you to do this anymore, and he quits. So it is kind of addressed, but not really. I don't really see the connection, you know? It feels like the Riddler and the kid, Edward, they are two different people. Incidentally, one thing that you kind of pick up when you consume a lot of Riddler stories is that you can kind of taste how is it going to go down depending on what they call the Riddler. If they keep calling the Riddler, it's fine, it doesn't say anything. They keep calling him Eddie, it's probably going to be a good story. And if they keep calling him Edward, it's probably going to suck. I can't really explain this intuition that I have, it's just something that you pick up, that if they keep calling him Edward, it's just like, oh, it's a fancy name, you're gonna do something kind of edgy to the character, but if they keep calling him Eddie, then it's going to be a much fun story. I mean, this is just an intuition, you have to read the story to see if I'm right, and in this case I am. So what happens in the story is essentially this. There is a guy, a father from a family that dies. The Riddler just fucking kills him, and then the Riddler gets taken to Arkham Asylum. Nobody can figure out why the Riddler did this, and They show the Riddler's being really smart. It's interesting because there is essentially 3 ways that you can write a character being smart and absolutely failing at it, and the comic does all 3. The first one is essentially trying to write a character smart and failing. You know, they have this thing where the Riddler is in Arkham Asylum and he's going to escape, and he's like, oh, because I know all your families, and the guys just fucking shoot each other, you know, the guards, which is kind of stupid. I don't think this would happen. But like, they tried to write something smart and they failed because it totally wouldn't happen in real life, you know. So they just tried and failed, which is fine. It happens. It's not the point of the comic anyway. The second way you can try to write a character as really smart and failing is giving the character knowledge that the writers have. You know, they put the Riddler there and say, hey, I actually know you're Bruce Wayne. I actually know who the Robins are. I actually entered your house and looked into your safe. And there's no way the Riddler did that. Like, come on. But let's just give him knowledge that he doesn't have any realistic way of knowing. But the writers have that knowledge. Let's put it on the character. So he's going to look very smart. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. But at least it's better than the third thing, which is having the character taking responsibility but for a thing that he didn't do. And not only did the character not do the thing, but another writer did the thing, and this writer is just taking responsibility, you know. Riddler sits down with Gordon. He says, hey, remember that really famous story, you know, the killing joke? Yeah, guess who was behind that all along? Yeah, it was me. I'm smart, aren't I? Yeah, forgive me for thinking that this is a little disrespectful and also a little pathetic. I mean, you're just taking responsibility for something that not only did you not do, but it was another writer that did like 40 years ago, and you're just taking responsibility for that because you can't figure out a way to write a character being smart. So yeah, part of this is just the Riddler being really scary. Oh my god, isn't the Riddler scary? I don't understand why people want to make the Riddler scary. It doesn't even do anything for the comic. I think it's just padding and just being like, oh, isn't the Riddler really scary? I don't know, because you don't need that. I actually think that if you kept this unexplained, it would be better. Like, there is a scene in which a guard gives a tray of food and the Riddler fucking cuts his fingers with the tray. I don't think this can happen. What the actual point of the comic is that the Riddler doesn't want to be the Riddler anymore, and he tells Batman, I don't want to be the Riddler anymore, I want you to leave me alone, and I killed the guy because I predicted that you would punch me and try to take me in, and every time that you touch me, I'm going to kill a random person. And it goes like this for a while. He's just in a hotel room, and every time someone threatens him, he goes and kills a person. And here's the thing. The Riddler is providing chaos, and he's just being a super smart genius, and everyone's leaving him alone. And Batman ends up killing him. So, yeah, that happened. What is this comic trying to say? I am not trying to figure out what the writer wants to do or what the writer wants to show, because I know that there is an entire thing on the DC Rebirth that they don't want the Riddler to be the Riddler anymore. They're trying to move him away, and like, I don't think there was a thing with the Joker that they work with the GCPD. I don't really know exactly what's going on. As you may guess, I am against the idea of the Riddler stop being the Riddler. I like him as detective, but honestly, the way that they're doing that just kind of disrespects the character. So, I'm not gonna get into that. I'm going to go into what the comic is actually trying to say. Well, first question that we must always ask when we're analyzing a text. Who is the protagonist, and what does the protagonist want? Like, what's the fucking point of the story? The protagonist is the Riddler, and the Riddler wants to stop being the Riddler and just live his life. Does he succeed? No. Why? That is the million-dollar question. Because here's the thing. Here's what I think that the comic is trying to say. The riddling thing is a symptom. It's not the cause of the Riddler's problems, it's a symptom. The reason why the Riddler does riddles is the thing that makes his life worse. The reason why the Riddler always loses is because of his ego. It's because he thinks he's better than everyone else. And the riddles are just him trying to handicap himself because he thinks he can kill Batman while telling Batman what he wants to do. It's something that genuinely ruins his life, but he doesn't try to seek treatment, he doesn't try to stop because of his ego. And the comic portrays the Riddler as stopping riddling. But he still fails, and why? The reason Batman states that the Riddler fails is because the Riddler can adapt, he can change his ways, but he doesn't consider that other people can change their ways too. Batman did change his ways and ended up killing the Riddler. So that's why the Riddler loses. That's what the comic is saying. It doesn't matter that the Riddler doesn't do riddles. He's still going to lose. What makes the Riddler is not the riddles. It's the fact that he's too full of himself to see the flaws in his plan. But then there's another question. Why does the Riddler underestimate Batman? And the reason he underestimates Batman is because Batman has the no-killing rule. He doesn't want to kill people, but he kills the Riddler. So what's up with that? Why did the Batman kill the Riddler? That's a really interesting question, and I'm not sure if I can answer that. Like, if I'm going to go into a meta reason, I think that the reason the Batman stopped being the Batman is because the Riddler stopped being the Riddler. It's because the Riddler has forsaken his place in the story. He decided that he's not going to be a Gotham supervillain, he's not going to be fun and do his shit, because all Batman villains have their gimmicks and they are all able to be defeated, and the Riddler tried to forsake that. He doesn't want to be a Batman villain anymore, so Batman has no obligation to be a Batman hero. That is the meta reason. But if I'm having an intra-diegetic reason, what I can assume is because the Riddler didn't fulfill his obligation with Batman. Because the Riddler said, if you don't touch me, I don't kill anyone else. But he still kept killing people, you know? So Batman just went like, okay, he's unstoppable, so I'm going to kill him. Because not like the Joker. The Joker has an excuse, he's insane. And the Riddler says, I'm smart, I'm not insane. So Batman's like, okay, he's never going to change. There's nothing keeping him the way he is. I think that this is reinforced by the text by showing the Riddler interacting with his father and his mother. Because the father says, well, my son's an idiot, I did everything I could. He was born in a golden crib and he had everything in front of him, but he decided to be the way he is. And he went to confront his mother and ended up strangling her, and he said, well, I don't really care if my mom was the reason I am what I am. I don't care. So he doesn't have an excuse on his origins. He doesn't have the excuse of his mental illness or the riddles. That's just the way he is. He's just a rotten bastard. And Batman was like, well, the redemption for you. I assume that this is what happened. And whether or not this representation of Batman is something that you agree with, is something that you like, it kind of depends on what's your point of view, really, because I think that the story is focused on the Riddler, and it's a portrayal of the Riddler that I don't really enjoy. I don't find this interpretation enjoyable. I don't want other Riddlers to take clue of this Riddler, to be inspired by it. I don't think it really brings anything that new to the table that other comics have not showed before, and I think that the new ideas that it brings kind of sucks and don't really dive in with what's unique with the character. So the Batman is a secondary issue for me. I think that whether the Batman is in character or not doesn't matter because the Riddler is out of character, so maybe Batman needs to be out of character to deal with him. But I think that it's interesting that a lot of people are saying that, oh, this oh, this shows how the Riddler can work without riddles because he can't. That's the point of the story. If he tries to do that, he tries to be serious, he fucking dies. And I think that there's also like a meta commentary on this, because the reason why the Riddler is such a strong character, is available in almost every single Batman universe, is because the Riddler is the Riddler. He's a fun character. He does riddles. Everyone likes him. If he doesn't have his riddles, if he isn't the Riddler, then nobody cares. The character fucking dies. I don't have any investment in this character anymore if he isn't the Riddler. The Riddler works because he's the Riddler, in pretty much the same way that the Joker works because he's the Joker. The reason why the Joker is so popular, is so prevalent, he's able to do whatever he wants, he's basically immortal, no one's going to kill him, is because the Joker is the Joker. Because of popularity power. Because he's so ingrained in our culture, he's basically a myth, a legend. And the Riddler works the same way. If the Riddler is not the Riddler, he's dead. He fucking dies. Because what makes him alive until now, the reason he survived all these decades, is because he is the Riddler. So I think that this is an interesting story. I still don't like it. I still think it sucks. But I think that there are some things that we can analyze, some things we can think about. And when I see a Riddler portrayal that I don't like, I want you to see that as me thinking about it and trying to decide the way I don't like it. So in the future, when I say, oh, I don't like this Riddler, know that I'm not just saying this out of my mouth. I am a Riddler scholar. And one of the reasons the Riddler is really great is because he is a really deep character and does make you think about the state of comics, the state of Batman, and what does it mean to be a fictional character in this universe. So if you're not a big fan of the Riddler, I do recommend reading his stories in this kind of light and asking yourself questions, because that's what the Riddler would want you to do. Thank you for watching.